You know what? I really miss doing strategy guides, but that's kind of what happens once you review every single competitive Pokemon. You can find the link down in the description below to that playlist right there if you aren't aware that I have reviewed and done a moveset for every single Pokemon. But there are a few other things to talk about. I might hit up on some of the other nerfs and buffs and moveset changes overall, but one of the biggest ones that I think needs a really good look has to be Hypnosis. Z Hypnosis is one of the most powerful things in the game right now. It's kind of like a 60% chance to win the game, or at least a 60% chance to start a really solid sweep, because when you go Psychium Z, Z Hypnosis, you gain +1 to your speed. That means you're now outspeeding the opponent, who is now asleep if that 60% chance to put them asleep comes through, and that's kind of what today's look is going to be at. I'm going to look at some of the most powerful Z Hypnosis Pokemon that I kind of really didn't do a good look into when Pokemon Sun and Moon first came out, but also just kind of show you guys this is a list of Hypnosis Pokemon. I might cover quite a few today, but who knows, there could be a couple more that people might decide to pick up in the future. So let's go and hop on over to Pokemon Showdown, where the first one's going to be Xurkitree. So I did the Ultra Beast very early on, like just weeks after, actually not even that, like a week after Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, and then people started realizing, yo, Hypnosis boosts speed, and Xurkitree can use it, and that's pretty much all that Xurkitree needs, because one of the main ways of running Xurkitree is going to be with that Choice Scarf. It has a massive amount in its special attack, so all you have to do is outspeed everything, and then you're going to be able to win. While Z Hypnosis, it's a chance to put your opponent to sleep, while also giving you a Choice Scarf that lets you choose which different moves you're going to run. So Z Hypnosis Xurkitree is truly a 60% chance to win the game, because if Xurkitree does not get one shot, like say, opponent has a sweeper, outspeeds it, Xurkitree survives the hit, well, that's all you need, because then Hypnosis lands, and now you can do whatever you want. You have your speed boost, and then people have been running the Tail Glow. Now, when I was doing my first moveset video for Xurkitree, it didn't seem like there was a reason to run Tail Glow, because you're either Scarfed, or you're going to get two-shot because something's outspeeding you, so you're really not going to find a chance to make it happen. But now you're outspeeding everything, and then Tail Glow is boosting your damage 2.5 times on one of the highest special attack stats in the game, which means you can even run a Modest Nature, and then just get more damage out of that. And then we go Thunderbolt, Hidden Power, Ice. So this is an interesting one right here, and that's where we go on over to Pokemon DB. So I've shown Pokemon DB a few times before. Pretty much you get to choose the move coverage, and then you get to see the effectiveness of those moves right there. But we can see normal effectiveness 500, super effective 401. So we hit really well on the Electric Ice. So Hidden Power Ice is kind of the way to go, because when we look at what resists Electric, we have Dragons, we have Grass, we know Ground's immune. So really, we turn a lot of those resists into super effective hits, or at least balance it out neutrally, and then boom, we do this, and now we only have 6 things that resist us: Heat Rotom, Frost Rotom, Togedemaru, Magnezone, and technically a Shedinja. So really, you don't have to worry about too much, and then anything you hit with a neutral +3 Thunderbolt is dead because you're a Xurkitree. So just kind of looking at some of the ways you can play out the Xurkitree right there. But with Synchronize into the Modest, then Hyper Training later, you're going to be pretty much good to go. So yeah, it's worth it, because Xurkitree kind of goes and destroys everything. Next up, we have the Gardevoir. Now, the crazy thing about the Gardevoir is you're kind of going for dual stab coverage while also being just slower and doing less damage, but once you start getting going, it kind of doesn't matter anymore, so it is kind of weird in that regard. But instead of going for Z Hypnosis into like a Tail Glow or a Nasty Plot or something like that, just run the Calm Mind. So even if a special attacker finds a way to get over your Gardevoir, if you have 2 on the Calm Mind, you might find a way to survive, and then you just go Moonblast Psyshock. Also, this does have a little bit of benefit right here, because it does mean that your Psyshock can hit physical on special defense tanks, so you can just kind of mostly run it if you want the Gardevoir over the Xurkitree. The Xurkitree, it just works. Like, it still works really well, because, okay, they bring a Ground-type Pokemon to stop a Thunderbolt, well, then you throw it out on Hidden Power Ice. So you really just have to hope you have a Scarf Pokemon, or a Pokemon that's bulky enough to somehow survive the insane stats. But at the same time, it's kind of very punishable, because if the Hypnosis misses and Xurkitree can get punished on that, then it's going to be pretty good to go. So that's just kind of showing, yeah, you have to take that Hypnosis gamble, but it's one of the best ways of running Hypnosis pretty much overall. Now, Gardevoir is kind of interesting. If you're going to be running a Modest Nature on the Gardevoir to kind of get the most damage out of it, go into the Calm Mind, take it that far, you're only going to be able to outspeed under 130 base speed. However, we can do a little better. If we go for a Timid Nature, we can actually cut off a couple of EVs. 204 EV investment means we'll be able to outspeed 135 base speed Pokemon. Then we can also put a little bit of investment into our hit points. Now, this is kind of crazy because it does help you out in certain matchups that you don't normally get with the Xurkitree. Xurkitree, even with that +1 speed boost, actually gets outsped by a neutral speed nature Pheromosa. So that can be one of the ways of responding to a Xurkitree, because you just have to be fast in it. So 135 base speed Pokemon can exploit that. And also, you can just go for a full speed investment on the Gardevoir, just in case you're scared of some other Pokemon that are going to be even faster than that, or very niche situations where you're going to be dealing with Scarf Pokemon, that they have a speedy nature, 80 base speed with a Scarf, where you're going to be at least able to speed tie them after that Z Hypnosis, and if you want to play that game, then you certainly can. Now, we can also look at some of the less popular ones, but still pretty crazy on the Z Hypnosis. Delphox, I think this is a chance of getting Delphox to work. Unfortunately, even less special attack than the Gardevoir, which is less special attack than the Xurkitree, but we do have a really good amount of base speed, so depending on the base speed tiers that you're going for, I recommend like pulling out a calculator, going on Pokemon Showdown, and seeing which Pokemon that you want to outspeed. At level 50 for the 135 base speed Pokemon, all you have to do is go and hit that sweet number that I showed you guys earlier, that if you can go 138 base speed with the 1.5 on the speed, then you're going to be able to outspeed that. If you want to put more speed into it, you can, but Delphox already starts off on a pretty high level, so at least you can get a little bit of tanky investment if you want to kind of add that to the mix, and then you are sacrificing a little bit on the special attack. The thing about Delphox, though, is that you're trading that damage, but you're getting more in return on the Fire Blast, because if you're already playing Hypnosis, kind of a accuracy gambling game anyways, but the Fire Blast is actually going to improve your damage by quite a bit. So then you can run whatever other coverage move you want to do. Do you want to throw out the Psychic? Do you want to throw out the Psyshock? Do you want to go for something like that on the dual stab? Or do you just want to throw out the Dazzling Gleam? That way you can coverage out against Dragon-type Pokemon. You know, there's a couple of different options that you can take it. And then your last move is going to be the Calm Mind. So playing it very similar to the Gardevoir. Slightly more defensive tankiness, since we can get that hit point investment in there. Actually, let's see the comparison. So 143 on the hit points compared to 169, so you might survive a neutral, not super overwhelmingly powerful hit on this Delphox that Gardevoir might not have survived. Or you can find yourself in a bit more breathing room and then throwing out high damage on the Fire Blast. Ninetales, again, a Pokemon that's just going to be very fast right out of the gate, so you can kind of turn that into whatever you want it to. You just go for like huge speed investment, maybe just a little bit on the hit points, because with that hit points, now you're looking at, okay, good special defense, decent on the hit points, and then nasty plot. So Ninetales, even though it has a low special attack to begin with, it can actually straight up nasty plot. So you land the Hypnosis, you get a nasty plot, and then you have Snow Cloak up, so you can still throw down the Blizzard. Once that goes down, you have Moonblast. So we're dealing with +2 on the special attack, high base power moves, and then really good stab options with that Moonblast afterwards. Unfortunately, I don't really see anything else you can really do on the Ninetales, but I think this might be interesting. I haven't seen anyone think about the Z Hypnosis, but any Pokemon that can pressure setup, like if it gets Calm Mind, if it gets Nasty Plot, and it can also use the Z Hypnosis, it's worth looking into because you don't have to put as much speed investment in there. And now Ninetales, normally it doesn't like getting outsped at all. But if it doesn't have to worry about that anymore and it's putting Pokemon to sleep, then it's still a pretty good option. And then again, we're also being able to push up our hit point values and then survive a little bit extra hits. That could maybe play into our favor. Also, maybe just because of the way that the defense is built, go full defensive investment or some kind of extra defensive investment. Now we're able to survive those physical hits and special hits. Maybe get Ninetales into a pretty good sweeping situation. I wish you could Aurora Veil, but that's like 5 move slot syndrome. That take off Blizzard, put in Aurora Veil, set up the Moonblast. That way, if Hypnosis fails, you still have a backup, but that's just kind of getting really weird and technical. Then the last one, we have the Poliwrath. So Poliwrath, and also don't worry guys, this isn't like the end of the video. I'm also going to be looking at damage calculations, just kind of show you guys the crazy amount of damage that we're going to be throwing around with this. But Poliwrath is also a really interesting one, because even though 70 base speed isn't the fastest, you can still get a good amount of speed in this Pokemon with that Jolly Nature. And let's also go and dial it down below 100. That way you guys can look at some familiar numbers right there. So 134. Now 134 is going to be really interesting because after that +1 speed boost, we are still outspeeding 130 base speed Pokemon. So Tapu Koko, you get to handle that on the Poliwrath setup. Now, Poliwrath being a water type isn't ideal in Tapu Koko, but if they try to respond with a Tapu Koko, you actually have a chance to outspeed it, and then you're pretty much just playing Hypnosis, Mind Reader, and Fissure. Now, you do get access to the Fissure because of first generation transfer. That you have to teach it Fissure TM, then bring it over, then you can Hypnosis Mind Reader, but it's the same idea that, okay, Z Hypnosis, you tank a hit, And with this set, you're not using any offensive moves, so max hit point investment, max speed investment on that Jolly Nature, and then you just go for cheese. You know, even if they see the Mind Reader, they might switch, but that gives Fissure an opportunity for free. Also, then you could try to Hypnosis them again, depending on where your tankiness lies. You keep trying to force switches on Mind Reader Fissure. If you come in on a Pokemon setting up, you can use Encore. That could force out a switch, then you get a free Z Hypnosis, and then you just get outspeeds from there. So not like a super serious, this is going to win you every battle set, but in certain situations, they might not expect the Poliwrath, and I think this is the best way of using Mind Reader Fissure. That a lot of people got really hyped for the Mind Reader Fissure once we realized that Pokemon Bank Transfer with Fissure Poliwrath was a thing. And unfortunately, Poliwrath isn't super fast, but this is kind of like the best way if you really want to use the moveset. I think this is the best way of making that happen. Yeah, I don't know what else. Like, Poliwrath, it doesn't get the mean look, unfortunately. I was like, I don't really see what else it could do, but if you could find a way to also keep the opponent in. Like, if you're in a last Pokemon situation, and you can Hypnosis, Mind Reader, Fissure, their last Pokemon, that'd be pretty cool right there. Maybe an option in doubles that you bring Shadow Tag or Arena Trap, and then you can Hypnosis, Mind Reader, Fissure. It makes it kind of harder because they could just double down the Poliwrath, but if they ignore the Poliwrath, then there's a chance right there. But overall, just weirdness and an off-fun set that you might want to run. And then we could also talk about Gravity. So Gravity makes it to where you don't have to worry about the accuracy on the Hypnosis at all. Now, you can either run this in singles or doubles. They just set up Gravity on a Sacrifice Pokemon, then you bring in your Z Hypnosis, and the Z Hypnosis will land, and that's all you need. Like, Gravity singles, and then you bring in Xurkitree. Xurkitree has nothing to worry about at that point, because Hypnosis will land, it gets the speed boost. So I guess it does have to worry about getting outsped and then OHKO'd by like an Earthquake on that first turn, but if you can bring it in safely after a Gravity, and that's kind of all there is to it. Now, the main issue with Gravity is that it is going to be a move tutor. So depending on like what formats allow Clover-only Pokemon or something like that, or a Alola native Pokemon, could make things a little messy. But overall, you can just bring Gravity Pokemon over from Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and then it should be good to go. I really like the idea of Sableye. That Prankster Sableye is going to make that Gravity work in doubles, or even in singles. Sableye is a really good Sacrifice Pokemon that can do all kinds of mean little things. You know, can put down that Will-O-Wisp just to make sure that the opponent has less to do. It can also kind of play a little tricky, and then it just uses Gravity before it dies. Now you can bring in your Xurkitree, and then you get a free sweep after that one. So there's quite a few Pokemon that you can use either as a sacrifice. You know, Meowstic. Meowstic can Prankster, Light Screen, Reflect, and then get a Gravity. Or, you know, Gravity, Light Screen, Reflect, get KO'd, and then you can bring in your Xurkitree or whatever Pokemon. Still works for the Gardevoir, still works for anything that's trying to get that setup going. So Gravity could add to the options, and again, any of the Pokemon on this list right here that I talked about some of the ones that stood out to me more, but there's still like a lot of other options that you can run with the Hypnosis, and then trying to combo that into some other fun stuff. Now it's time for the damage calculations. So, damage calculations are pretty fun when you break it down, because you get to see the amount of damage that we're doing. So I'm kind of factoring in everything already. So say we have +2 Nasty Plot Blizzard on our modest Alolan Ninetales. So we got our Z Hypnosis, we're outspeeding everything, it's looking good. We're going to have solid amounts of damage. Now, I like using this against the Abomasnow, because it kind of does match up. But yeah, max hit point investment in Abomasnow, we're not going to be able to do it to. However, if we bring out something like the Silvally, Silvally is a very bulky Pokemon, and we can kind of use it to understand what is going to survive our hits and what isn't. So if you're hitting a neutral Blizzard, yeah, Silvally is going to give us some issues, but overall, anything that is less frail than Silvally, and most Pokemon, they don't have 90 in the hit points and 90 in the special defense, so we're going to be able to find reliable KOs against something like that, but we are susceptible to getting tanked out pretty hard, and then also we're going to be mega walled by Toxapex, so that is something to consider right there. I also did want to go and bring in the Delphox to kind of see how it played out if we were going for the Modest Nature on Delphox, because we already have that speed working for us, and then we go into something like the Fire Blast at +1 after we land our Z Hypnosis, and that could be something pretty good. Also, another note I want to make, even if we don't land the Hypnosis, we still have +1 speed, so sometimes it's actually really good to bring it in as a finishing Pokemon. That, okay, even if Z Hypnosis fails, they can't hit you, or they can't KO you, then you have enough speed to like, kind of finish off a weakened foe anyways, so that's something to consider right there. Looks like it's going to be the same case on the Fire Blast. Like, we can bring in the Tapu Koko, and then we can see the amount of damage overkill that we land on a Pokemon like the Tapu Koko. So that's going to be pretty good right there. And how do we do? Okay, I didn't look this one up. I just occurred to me. So we can't 2-hit KO the sassy Porygon 2. So depending on what the Porygon 2 set is doing, that could maybe kind of determine it. Because if you already have that +1 on your special defense, the Porygon 2 isn't going to be able to do too much damage to you, depending on what set it's kind of running. And if it's even going to be like a bit more of an offensive Porygon 2, there's a chance you can 2-hit KO it. If not, you still get a good amount of damage on the Fire Blast. And it's also recommended that you have something like these Stealth Rocks. Injury Hazard's going to definitely improve a lot of your KO potential, and also it will break Focus Sash, which is going to be a very nice thing for the Delphox. And then we can even see that if we have the Blaze ability, say they knock us down really low, Blaze activating is just kind of the gamble that you take with Delphox. If you end up in low hit points, Blaze, Fire Blast, now you're going to be able to KO many more Pokemon, because that's going to be an insane damage boost. So yeah, as we can see right here, the Silvally then becomes a very easy KO. So kind of playing with some weirdness right there. Looking at the Xurkitree. Xurkitree, it's the one I led the video with, but just kind of shows that yes, Xurkitree wins against everything. That these numbers that we see right here are going to be against the Abomasnow. So Thunderbolt is resisted, and we're still doing 80% to an Abomasnow, which is kind of shown to be very tanky in these kind of damage setups. Let's go and look at a Pokemon like the Metagross. We know Metagross, it's a pseudo-legendary, it should be tanky, right? Well, Thunderbolt almost neutrally KOs it 2 times over. So the Xurkitree, once it gets that outspeed range, it's going to be very, very difficult to deal with right there on that damage. Hidden Power Ice, even Hidden Power Ice, like almost neutrally one-hit KOing Metagross, like if it didn't have the Steel typing. So we can still hit pretty frail Pokemon. What's a good Pokemon to kind of show? Let's see what the Weavile does. Like, Weavile would almost be 2-hit KO as well. Like, let's say we have a Pokemon that has 70 on the hit points, 85 on special defense, almost gets one shot by the Hidden Power Ice. Just kind of showing that the Hidden Power Ice, even though Hidden Power is low base power, once we get that Tail Glow, once we kind of get those stats in our favor, yeah, Xurkitree is going to be pretty challenging to take down. And even if we had a Timid nature, like, Timid versus Modest doesn't really change too many of the KOs overall, so you could also just go for the Timid nature, try to outspeed up to 135, even like 145 base speed. You know, that's when you just max out 2v2 special attack, 2v2 in that speed, outspeed everything possible, and then even with that Tail Glow, yeah, few things are going to survive us. And it kind of shows that since we already have such a high amount of special attack, the Modest isn't really boosting us too much more in comparison with that Tail Glow. So Modest is there just in case Tail Glow fails. We still have a lot of damage potential, but if we get our Hypnosis, Z Hypnosis, everything working, then you do want to be timid. That way other Scarf Pokemon can't keep up with you, and yeah, really it's just going to be like Scarf, Garchomp, Earthquake is the only thing you have to worry about, because that's the only thing that can really outspeed you at that point. So pretty crazy stuff. And then the Gardevoir. Gardevoir also showing at +1, does pretty healthy amounts of damage to quite a lot of Pokemon. If we bring up anything else, you know, Silvally, it's going to be enough to 2-hit KO pretty easily. Generally, those tanky Pokemon not going to have as many options, but just got showing, yeah, +1, we can 2-shot a lot of things, or we can also get the 1-hit KOs against anything less tanky than the Silvally. So, there we go, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Just taking a look at that Z Hypnosis. Crazy Snowball. Like I said, on Pokemon like Xurkitree, you know, just win. And on the Battle Spot, if they don't bring anything that hard stops or hard tanks up, like if they can't wall out the +1 from a Gardevoir, or the well, actually, it's pretty hard to wall out the +3 from the Xurkitree, but if they can't stop that Gardevoir, or they don't stop the Hypnosis during its setup, you can kind of win right there. So, showing you guys pretty fun strat, and I do like talking the strategy stuff. So, if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.